Hello, this is a criminal case study of Matthew J. Hoffman. My name is Kelsey Michaels.
I'm Chloe Llamas.
My name's Luis Diaz.
Case overview. Matthew Hoffman, he's currently 43 years old. He's a Caucasian male. At the time of the crime, he was 30 years old. And he was recently single at the time of the offense. And he had also recently lost his job. He's currently serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole at the Toledo Correctional Institution. He pled guilty to aggravated burglary, 3 counts of aggravated murder, kidnapping, rape of a minor, tampering with evidence, and 3 counts of abuse of a corpse. So the offense. So with the aggravated burglary, Mr. Hoffman entered the home of Tina Herman and her children on November 10th, 2010. Hoffman brought a large hunting knife with him. So he purchased this online several days before. He also reported that he felt excited when he entered someone else's home when they weren't there. Hoffman remained in the house for about an hour until Tina Herman and her friend Stephanie Spring arrived at the house. When they arrived, according to Hoffman, he panicked and killed both women, fatally stabbing them several times. Hoffman stated that he realized both women were dead at that point, and he went into a state of shock. Hoffman continued to wander around the house, at which time he killed the family dog because it wouldn't stop barking. Tina Herman's children then arrived shortly after that, to which Hoffman responded by killing Tina Herman's young son. Hoffman then found and tied up Tina Herman's daughter, Sarah Maynard, at which point he decided not to kill the young girl. So Hoffman then began to devise a plan on how to dispose of the bodies and burn down the house. He reported that he decided to, quote, process the bodies. He dismembered the 3 victims and hid their remains inside a hollowed out tree that he knew of. He kidnapped Sarah Maynard, who was 13 years old at the time, and he left her tied up in his basement on a bed of leaves. Sarah Maynard was held hostage for 4 days in Matthew Hoffman's basement. Hoffman claims that he took good care of Sarah while she was held hostage, but according to the reports by Sarah, Hoffman fed her once, which he fed her a bowl of cereal with sour milk, and he kept her tied up in the basement. During that 4 days, he also sexually assaulted Sarah Maynard. So developmental and psychological history. So he was born in Mount Vernon, Ohio in 1980. From a very early age, he was obsessed with trees and climbing trees. He met all of the developmental milestones and graduated high school in 1999. He reported that he did not enjoy school. And his mother reports that he was a stubborn, rebellious, high-strung, and smart child. His mother and father divorced when he was 17, and he lived with his mom at this time. Hoffman's parents were very supportive. It seems like they had a really nice family dynamic, and as they were instrumental in Hoffman's early release from a prior prison sentence. So for work, Hoffman had a number of different jobs, never being able to stay in one place. He worked as a plumber for about 3 months and just stopped showing up for work entirely. And then he broke into a condo that he was working on and robbed it. Then he became a tree trimmer. He got along with his co-workers, but as time went on, they started to find him a bit strange. His boss found out that Hoffman was lying about his tree trimming experience and did not disclose his prior incarceration with his employer. He eventually lost his job in October 2010, which was several months before the murders. From then on, he had just been collecting unemployment. So legal history. Hoffman's first encounter with law enforcement was when he was a teenager, when he got in trouble for climbing onto the roof of Lakeview High School with his friends. Later on, in mid-September 2000, he stole 3 large Welcome City signs in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And then in 2001, he was sentenced to 8 years in Colorado prison for first-degree aggravated motor vehicle theft, breaking and entering, burglary, arson of an apartment complex, and reckless endangerment of lives. He only served about 6 years and was paroled to Knox County, Ohio. Charges were also later filed against him in 2010 from his girlfriend. He was accused of domestic abuse. He choked his girlfriend when she was still living with him, and when she broke up with him, that's when he attacked his former girlfriend. So psychological development. There was a noticeable change in his behavior around puberty, and he started becoming obsessed with trees. People consider him to have dendrophilia, which is a love of trees or sexual attraction to trees. However, there's no evidence of fetishizing or sexualizing trees. After losing his job and his girlfriend, Hoffman became irritable and moody in the months before the murders, and said this behavior seems to be, shortly before the murders, his 2 dogs suddenly went missing, and it is rumored that he had killed them. Around 30 years old, there was a change in his routine and behavior, and he started acting strange around the young neighborhood girl. He had driven his the neighbor's daughter home from the movie theater multiple times, but then he started driving her through unpopulated areas and further away from her home. This could be indicative of potential pedophilic urges. He demonstrated later, after his arrest, he demonstrated suicidal ideation. He was possibly malingering. Hoffman attempted to negotiate with the police by offering to disclose where he left the bodies, and in return, he wanted the police to shoot and kill him in an attempted escape. As far as medical information, there is no pertinent medical or substance abuse history. He has no prior hospitalizations.
Right. So for behaviors exhibited, these were some of the things he committed at the time of the offense, and then shortly after. He showed, signs of impulsiveness. So, for example, Hoffman displayed this characteristic when his instinct was to murder and dismember the bodies to hide the evidence of a home invasion. He also showed signs of being irritable and aggressive. When the family unexpectedly showed up, he resorted to violence using a hunting knife and killed the family dog to prevent it from barking. He also had signs of reckless behavior. So in a previous crime that he committed when he was invading homes and burglarizing them, not only was his murderous actions heinous, but he also had previously burned down a house to hide the evidence of a home invasion. So you could just see patterns of recklessness in his past. He was very deceitful. Matthew Hoffman kept Sarah Maynard alive in an attempt to deceive her by staying the misunderstanding by changing her mind on him. He was very callous and lacked of empathy. So throughout the case, he was just, slow, kept to himself. These actions were characterized, and he just had a whole nonchalant personality up until the end of the interrogation. And obviously, the biggest thing was, behaviors involving a sexual activity with a pubescent child. His motives of keeping her alive were unclear. He did state that he was attempting to convince her that he was innocent throughout the entire thing, but he did sexually assault her, and yeah.
So based on the behaviors Hoffman displayed, we were able to provide 3 diagnoses. The first would be pedophilic disorder, non-exclusive type, sexually attracted to females, then antisocial personality disorder, and lastly, unspecified obsessive compulsive and related disorder, all of which will be explained in the next slide. And although he met certain criteria for hoarding disorder, there was a lack of evidence to be able to diagnose him with hoarding. So according to the DSM-5, Hoffman meets criteria A for pedophilic disorder, having sexual urges involving prepubescent child, and criteria B, the individuals acted on those urges. So before Sarah Maynard, Hoffman would drive his neighbor's daughter from the movie theater and start taking her on indirect routes home through unpopulated areas, which could be indicative of urges, as he was contemplating whether or not he should act on those urges. Then after the murder of Sarah's family, Hoffman kidnapped and raped Sarah Maynard, who was only 13 at the time. The secondary diagnosis is antisocial personality disorder. He meets criteria A by displaying the following symptoms: failure to conform to social norms, impulsive behavior, being irritable and aggressive, being deceitful, a disregard for the safety of others, and showed a lack of remorse. As mentioned previously, in 2000, Hoffman was charged with theft as he stole 3 large city welcome signs from Steamboat Springs, Colorado. However, that was not his first encounter with law enforcement. He had got in trouble with the police when he was a teenager and decided to climb onto the roof of a high school. Then he was sentenced to prison in 2001 for 8 years for arson, first-degree aggravated motor vehicle theft, bringing, entering, and reckless endangerment of lives. This is a failure to conform to social norms by repeatedly doing actions that are grounds for arrests. His impulsivity shines through when he had kept moving around. He had trouble staying in one place and holding down a job. It was also stated that he got bored easily, which also plays a role in his flighty and criminal behavior. Hoffman also stated that he did not actually intend or plan to murder or kidnap anyone the day he broke into the Hermans' home. He had also displayed aggression during the offense and in the past. So previously, Hoffman had abused by choking out his girlfriend and even pushed her into a wall. And when she was trying to move out, she even stated that she thought he was going to kill her. Then during the crime, Hoffman repeatedly stabbed Tina, Stephanie, and Cody long after they were dead. He was also very deceitful as he continued lying to Sarah Maynard, stating that her family was still alive. He also lied that he had people watching the house to make sure she didn't leave while he was gone. He also told her that he was planning on returning her to her family by Christmas and made her believe that he was just holding her for ransom. Further, he also showcased a consistent disregard for the safety of others. So as mentioned above, Hoffman set homes on fire that had people in them and also physically abused his ex-girlfriend. He also had a disregard for the Herman family when he murdered them and for Sarah while he was brutally raping her. And while, as previously mentioned, when he fed her, he gave her sour milk and just cereal to eat. And then he showcased a lack of remorse. So not only did Hoffman murder 3 people, but he also murdered and dismembered the family dog because it was barking too much instead of letting it go. He also used language to dehumanize the people he had killed. When talking about dismembering Tina, Stephanie, and Cody, he stated that he was just processing the bodies. Also, after he was caught, he had told the police where to find the bodies, but he showed little care about what he had done and showed more concern for the tree where he put the bodies in. He even had the police take pictures of the tree for proof that the tree wasn't damaged. Further, during the kidnap of Sarah, he had went into Walmart where he just bought a shirt that was on sale. This can be a sign of psychopathy as there's a lack of fight or flight kicking in. He was extremely calm and even confident that he was going to get away with this crime. So overall, he showcased a disregard for and a violation for the rights of others. And Hoffman's last diagnosis is unspecified obsessive compulsive and related disorder. According to the DSM-5, this category applies to presentations in which symptoms characteristic of an obsessive compulsive and related disorder, but does not meet the full criteria for any of the disorders. It was previously mentioned that Hoffman had an obsession of trees and even had bags full of leaves piled on top of each other all over his house. He even had Sarah Maynard sleep on a bed of leaves. So his desire of having and collecting leaves could be compulsive. However, there is not enough information to diagnose him under any of the disorders in the obsessive compulsive spectrum.
So just to summarize the case as a whole, Matthew Hoffman was a peculiar individual with a strange obsession with leaves, possibly to aid his deep fear of being buried alive. During a burglary, Matthew was responsible for the murder of 3 individuals alongside the kidnapping of a young girl. Attempting to cover up the crimes that he had committed, he set a fire to the home, attempting to destroy the evidence. That's actually from a previous incident where he was trying to cover up a burglary. He dismembered the bodies, stuffing them inside a hollow tree trunk, and locked up a 13-year-old Sarah Maynard with bungee cords, nothing more than a box of stale cereal. She was found in the basement with a dresser blocking the entrance, sleeping on a pile of leaves. Matthew finally disclosed this location of the dismembered bodies with a meticulously written out statement once the death penalty was removed as a form of compliance, whether or not the outcome of the case were from the results of a man suffering from pedophilic or antisocial disorder, it is still unclear whether or not Matthew Hoffman had the intention and motive to commit these heinous acts, or if this was just a burglary gone wrong.